In this episode of my trip around half of Australia, I've headed north from Adelaide to my first destination, the Mount Remarkable National Park. I appear to have this whole campground to myself. It is insane. It's so pretty here. It's so pretty. Crazy. So my campsite has like a parking bay, and then at the back end there's a fire pit, and then over there's like a seating undercover cooking area. Down the far end there's like toilets and showers and stuff down there. But yeah, these campsites are sort of set up for 1 or 2 cars depending on which ones you book, and they've all pretty much got those little fire pits there. It's brilliant. This campground has 49 campsites available for swags, tents, camper trailers and caravans of all different lengths. There are 2 amenities blocks, each having accessible toilets and showers available, as well as the barbecue facilities. My Blue Eddy solar panel and electrical generator. I left the bit at home that I needed to connect them, so I had to buy these 2 bits. So this bit here that takes the cables from the solar panel into an Anderson plug into this, I think it's called an XT60, which is this little yellow bit that goes into the generator. Apparently after this model they changed it to just the Andersons, I think. So that's better for everybody else, but for me I had to Frankenstein 2 pieces to get it to work. So hopefully I'm going to start seeing some power coming on here. Hey fella. You just hanging around my campsite? I was just like sorting out my Starlink and I turned around and this fella's just wandered on in. Sure. Unsure intentions. Gonna have to keep an eye on him. It would be ideal if you stayed on the other side. Thanks. So these camps do have a fee, and just entering the park has a fee, but you don't have to pay for the park entry if you're paying to camp. But it's got this QR code to pay for it when you get here, but you're not going to have any reception unless you hike up to the top of the mountain. So I highly recommend getting onto the website for the parks South Australia, so parks.sa.gov.au, and pre-book and prepay for all your stuff. Decided my first hike before it gets dark for the evening is going to be the 2.4 kilometre Davies Gully hike that starts off at the end of the campground. It's a pretty rocky trail, so fine for anyone of all sort of abilities so far, but you won't be able to get like a wheelchair, and it'd be pretty hard to get like a stroller or something through here. I probably wouldn't do it. I reckon you'd be having a bad time in life if you gave that a crack. Located about 250 kilometres north of Adelaide in the Flinders Ranges, the mountain was named by a colonial European Edward John Eyre in about 1840, and he was quoted to have said that he named it for the lofty way that it towered above all the surrounding hills, and he wasn't wrong. It really is remarkable. Apart from assistance dogs, pets aren't allowed in national parks, so this is one where your furry best friend has to stay behind. You can see the ocean there in the background. Cool. April to October is the most comfortable time of year for walking due to the more pleasant temperatures, and it's also the best time of year to see wildlife and native flora. Summers get mighty toasty with little rainfall, with temperatures ranging from 35 to 45 degrees on the regular, making walking much more challenging at that time of year. It's a really wet day today. It didn't pan out as nicely as I hoped it would, so I've just taken the short walk down to the ruins, and I'll show you that in 2 secs because I'm just coming upon it. But I did want to show you this mountain range in the background. That's where I was walking up on those ridges yesterday, up over there. So yeah, it was a really nice walk, and for the distance I went and the height that I went, it wasn't that strenuous, so highly recommend. The geology of the park is what makes this area of the Flinders Ranges just so special. 960 metres up to the summit, right down to the rocky riverbeds lined with red gums, this area is filled to the brim with natural wonders that can be enjoyed through a vast number of hiking and cycling options for people of any age or fitness level. Just drove down this like four-wheel drive trail, which was like, took me under all of these like power line things. And it was like super full drivey and like puddly and stuff. It was super fun, and it was lined with the mangroves on each side. But it's popped me out in this cool little lookout area. It's pretty awesome. Lots of fun. Morning. We're about to take off on a hike through the Flinders Ranges. This is the first hike I'm doing since I've got here. I'm at the Trezona Campground, and this is the Trezona circuit that I'm about to take off on. So I think it's meant to be about 4 hours, so it shouldn't be too drastically hard, but we'll see. Maybe it'll test me because I'm a bit not match fit at the moment. But this area is stunning. And if yesterday's little vision of emus and kangaroos hopping about is anything on today, I'm very, very excited to see what I can come across while I'm exploring. Straight off the bat, there's kangaroos everywhere, so they're bounding across the pathways, so I have to make sure that none of them just bound out of a bush and take me out while I'm walking along the path. There's like 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. Just watching me in that little patch. And there's emus hanging up on the hill over there as well. They don't seem to care about me as much. Sometimes the kangaroos blend in so well with scrub because of their colouring being nice and grey around here that we just don't notice that they're there until they start bounding. So I am actually like slightly concerned for reals about them bounding out and hitting me. But it'd be a funny story if it does. This plain of Pleistocene age sediments was laid down during a dry, windy period between 24,000 and 18,000 years ago. A shallow wetland captured the considerable depths of sediment from airborne dust. An island in the swamp is now a pine-clad hill. Which is that hill that I just walked past. Only about 500 metres in and I've already ditched the jumper. I've noticed driving through the ranges to get here that there's a lot of areas where it's arid and barren and only shrubs and stuff growing, but then there's a lot of creeks where obviously when heavy rains hit, the runoff comes down and has made gullies and creeks, and sort of, they don't really look big enough to be rivers, but there's definitely a lot of creeks around, and through those creeks big gum trees are growing along the edges, so it's a dead giveaway that water does go down there, and it's really interesting. I like it. So this is my trail, the Trezona circuit, but then we've just crossed paths with this other trail, and it's like, yep, long distance walking trail. I know there's some around here that go for days, and I reckon that's one of them. Very big fan of trails that have good signage, that's for sure. Taking us down into the riverbed area a little bit. So you can see how rocky it is. The bases of this particular type of gum tree that they've got around here are all really crazy large. It's like they're all wearing skirts or fat pants, like they're going to a rave. wonder what that's for. Well, there's water here if you need it, but I wouldn't be betting my life that it's clean. Pest control, surveyors. Interesting. Maybe it's just for the people who work the national parks. Actually, I'm able to come in. And there's some bunks and a logbook. Looks like you can't use the fireplace anymore. Middlesite Water Hut. I reckon I'm going to assume that this is made for the people who are camping those, trekking on those long walks, and they need somewhere to crash overnight. If it's raining or whatever, they can crash here. Interesting. There's a food storage locker down there, so I wonder if there's anything in it. Nah. That's okay though, I didn't need anything. There is like some cooking stuff and some off-brand Crocs and a bottle of Jacob's Creek wine in the back there, so you know, you're sorted if that's for you. Anyway, continuing on. There's a little stand with a map here showing the T5. So if we have a look down, T1 is where we started, and there's T5 there. I think we're going around that direction. Honestly, this is probably the best signed out trail I think I've ever been on in my life, and I really like the marker points around here. Don't just show you the direction, but they actually say how far you've come or how far you've got left to go depending on which direction of the loop you're doing. So this one here tells me that I'm on the right circuit here, and it tells me I'm at 6.2 kilometers. So I've come 2 kilometers so far, and that's the direction I'm going, because I started out at 8.2. So basically I'm doing the direction that gives me a countdown and how far I've got left. In terms of accessibility for this trail, it's pretty easy so far. I would say that anyone of any sort of fitness ability is probably fine for it. Oop, there's another kangaroo. If you have an off-road pram, you could probably do it. There's going to be some areas, especially going down in the creek beds, where that would be really annoying, but for the rest of the trails it's probably alright. I wouldn't do wheelchairs. That'd be too much. But accessibility is really good around here. They've put a lot of effort into it, and it really shows. What I'm liking about this portion of the trail is that it's pretty like solid and level, and the rocks aren't too bad, because I'm one of those people that I will fall over things really easily. So on some of the areas of like the trails, like how it was at the beginning, I have to stop to look at the scenery, because if I am looking around while I'm walking, I will inevitably trip on everything. So big props to this section of the trail. I see you. I swear every time I forget about kangaroos because I haven't seen one in a while. There's one hiding behind a bloody bush that just jumps out. That's the first one I've actually seen before he's seen me in ages. The rest of them have just like scared me by bounding off before I've realised they were there. As the geology changes around the place, which is probably due to like water flows and whatnot, also the flora changes as well. So there's a whole bunch of trees up here that are very different to the trees that are down in the gullies. Sort of feels like gum trees are definitely down in the gullies, but then there's a larger variety a little bit further away. I'm not super knowledgeable about tree types and whatnot, so I can't tell you what exactly they are. I'm sure someone will be able to note what they are in the comments, but yeah. Just coming up to another main point. Don't know if this is just like a little day area or a camping zone, but we'll find out in 2 seconds. So this is the T3 point, which is over here. So we've started out here, gone all around and up to here now. I'm just walking along like a little cliffside here, but I've noticed down there in the creek, this is the first area that I've seen that's actually holding water at the moment, and it's running a little bit there. I haven't seen water maintained anywhere else, so I'm not quite sure when it rained here last, but interesting. Everything's interesting to me. I don't know. Sorry, I'm keeping repeating myself, but it is what it is. The Trezona Hike and Campground is located in the Ikera area of the Flinders Ranges, which is about 450 kilometres north of Adelaide. The park comprises of approximately 95,000 hectares, and it includes the Hyson Range, the Burkina and Bunyaroo Gorges, and the vast amphitheatre of mountains that is the Ikera Wapina Pound, one of the more famous parts of this area. There is actually a free app you can download before you get to the region called Discover the Flinders Ranges. It includes narrated driving and walking tours, guides to geology, bird life and wildflowers, information and special offers. And the app is produced by the Friends of the Ikera Flinders Ranges National Park. For the first time on the whole trail, the signage isn't very good here. I'm just going to continue along the riverbed because I think that that's probably what matches what I saw on the map earlier. But yeah, I guess it'll be easy to double back if I find out that this isn't right. But I'm pretty confident it'll get me where I need to go. Aha! Signage. Found myself in the riverbed again and I've lost the trail again. There's a lot of little tracks kind of coming off the sides of the river bends, but they don't have any signage on them. So I don't know, they could be animal trails, they could be something else. I'm just going to keep following the riverbed because I know that this kind of skirts along the back of my camp eventually anyway, so figure it out. Keep an eye out for more signs. It was really good on the signage for that first like 3/4, and then this last 2 kilometres has been a little bit sketchy. One random cactus up here on the hill. That's so strange. Just one, no others around. I've come off the edge of the bank because my ankle was getting a little bit sore walking on the rocks. But I'm pretty confident that I'm just walking along like emu trails. I don't think they're people trails. I just saw emus up on the edge there, which kind of made me think about it. But yeah, I've looked at the map again, and as long as I'm sort of hugging this riverbed, I'll definitely make it back. So I'm just going to follow these paths that are along the side of it. Again, there's like no signage around at this point, so, which to be honest is more like what I expected the whole thing to be like. But it's just surprising to have 3/4 of it be amazing and then 1/4 just be like, man, you're on your own. I did not see him until he just like popped out of a bush next to me. Aha! Found some man-made signage down there. Head down to that and figure out where we're at. Yep, okay. So it definitely intended on following the riverbed the whole way here. There's a little sign there. That's the first one I reckon I would have seen the whole time. And then signage kicks in again over here. Cool. This section of the trail here crosses over with the Burkina Gorge 20km self-driving geological trail, which showcases 130 million years of Earth history. And just here is the golden spike marker, showing the ground level of the Ediacaran period, which was from 635 to 541 million years ago. That's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's the last 200 metres of this 8.2 kilometre walk, and I just saw my first person for the first time on the entire trail. I've had the whole thing to myself. Just passed a cyclist, and he reckons he's been doing all the trails around where he can. He reckons he's done like 60 k's today and not seen another soul until we bumped into each other. So it's very, very amazing around here, but also very remote, and there is no reception. So be careful you don't hurt yourself out here. We were having a bit of a laugh about how he was up on some cliffs thinking, oh, that was a bit unsafe. So yeah, good times, but be safe if you're going to be by yourself in an area that has no reception. That's the moral of the story. Feels like they're just hanging around the campsite. Sort of. Adjacent to the campsite. Just walking back into where my campsite is now, and I think there's me and maybe like another 3 camp setups around, which is crazy because it's a Saturday, so I would have thought on the weekends this place would be pumping, but no, super empty, which is awesome for me and them, but I'm super surprised because it's just such an amazing place to be. I know it's remote, but still, it's just so worth it for a weekend getaway if you are within driving distance of this place. So there's drop toilets here, a tank with water that I probably wouldn't drink if I was you, unless you want to boil it. And other than that, there's just the area set up for your tents, and each area has like chairs and tables and a hot plate and stuff like that. Basic, but awesome. The last big stopover in South Australia is the tiny town I just couldn't pass without stopping in, Coober Pedy. Coober Pedy is an opal mining town, and my mum grew up in an area living on the opal fields in New South Wales. So opal has become a big part of my family history, meaning I wouldn't hear the end of it if I came all this way and didn't stop to check out the area. The town is located about 846 kilometres north of Adelaide and is known as the opal capital of the world, and it's about halfway between Adelaide and Alice Springs, making it a good stopover location for tourists. The temperatures in this part of the world get super extreme, getting up to 50 degrees at times, and as such, many of the homes in this area are actually underground, where temperatures are much more comfortable, and this is the second thing that the town is most famous for. Aboriginal people have a long-standing connection with this area, which is considered by the people of the Western Desert to be the traditional lands of the Arabana people. The name of the town, which was decided in 1920, is thought to derive from the words of the Kakatha language, Coober Pedy, which usually translates as white fella and hole in the ground, which seems pretty apt to me.